Dirty water splashed across Henry's suit as the entire ballroom fell silent. The music died mid-note, conversations froze, and every head turned toward the couple at the center of the golden-lit gala. Henry stood drenched beneath the chandeliers, blinking slowly as the murky water dripped onto the marble floor. Claire stood opposite him, breath shaking, both hands still gripping the empty metal bucket as if she needed it to stay upright. Outside, winter wind scraped against the tall windows, filling the quiet with a distant howl. Claire's heart pounded as humiliation and fury swirled inside her, fueled by the message she had found on Henry's phone, the one that made her believe he had mocked her family and the factory, where her parents worked their entire lives. She thought she had exposed a cruel truth. But the expression on Henry's face wasn't arrogance or guilt. It was something else, something she didn't understand yet. She didn't know that this public explosion would ignite a chain of events reaching far beyond their marriage, into the company her family depended on, into secrets Henry had tried to bury, and into a life-changing story of hidden pain, second chances, and a shocking truth that would test everything they thought they knew about loyalty, dignity, and love. Before we begin this emotional story, tell us in the comments from which city you are watching, and don't forget to leave your like to keep following us. The chandeliers of the Waldorf Astoria shimmered above the crowded charity gala, casting warm gold over gowns and tuxedos. Laughter rippled through the hall until it snapped into silence. Claire's heels struck the marble floor as she marched toward the center table, her breath tight. Her fingers clamped around a metal bucket that sloshed with murky water. People shifted aside, confused, whispering her name. Henry sat alone at the table, shoulders tense beneath his dark suit, eyes fixed on the untouched glass of wine in front of him. He didn't raise his head when she stopped behind him. He already felt the air around him change, like a storm gathering. A muscle in his jaw twitched, but he stayed still as if accepting a sentence he hadn't argued against. "Look at me," Claire said, her voice low, trembling more with hurt than anger. He lifted his eyes slowly. There was exhaustion in them, weeks of it, woven with something she didn't understand. But she didn't let herself pause. Not tonight. Not after what she thought she had discovered. "So you think you can humiliate me in private and smile in public?" she whispered, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Conversations halted. Even the string quartet faltered on a note. Henry's throat worked, as if words were pushing upward, but dying before reaching the surface. "Claire, please, not here." His plea only fueled her rage. Tears stung the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them away, letting fury be her shield. She thought of her mother working double shifts at the manufacturing plant. She thought of her father coming home exhausted, hands stained with grease. And she thought Henry had mocked all of them, their struggles, their loyalty, when she found that message on his phone. So Claire lifted the bucket higher. Gasps echoed. A waiter dropped a tray of champagne flutes. Henry didn't move. He didn't flinch. He only looked at her with an expression that made her chest tighten for a split second, an expression that almost looked like grief. The water crashed over his head, dark and foul, soaking his suit, dripping down his face, splattering onto the pristine marble. The crowd recoiled. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else whispered, "Oh my God." Henry lowered his gaze again, water streaming from his hair, his tie clinging to his chest. He didn't defend himself. He didn't raise his voice. He just breathed, shallow, quiet, like a man waiting for the room to stop spinning. And Claire, chest rising and falling, suddenly felt the shockwave of what she'd just done. Her fingers loosened on the empty bucket. For a moment, she wondered why Henry hadn't fought back. That question hung in the air as a tall man in a black suit hurried toward them, panic on his face. Someone Claire recognized from the company her family depended on. The tall man's shoes clicked sharply against the marble as he reached them. It was Mr. Dalton, the operations director from Harrington Industries, where her parents had worked for more than 20 years. His face was pale, his breathing unsteady. He looked at Henry first, then at Claire, then at the bucket on the floor. "Claire," he whispered, strained. "What have you done?" People around them leaned closer, hungry for the unfolding drama. Claire swallowed hard, trying to keep her chin lifted. "I stood up for myself," she said, though her voice lacked the force she intended. "For my family." Henry wiped water from his eyes with the back of his hand. without anger, without protest. He simply sat there, drenched, his shoulders sinking as if he carried far more than the weight of the ruined evening. Claire watched him, confused by his lack of reaction. She had expected yelling, denial, fury, something. Instead, silence. Mr. Dalton stepped closer to Henry, bending down. "Sir, please, we should get you somewhere private." "Sir." The word hit Claire like a slap. Before she could speak, Henry rose slowly from the chair. Water dripped from the hem of his jacket, pattering onto the floor. His eyes lifted to Claire's again, and there was no resentment in them, only something older, deeper, bruised. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "No," Claire snapped, stepping back. "We're done talking." But the tremor in her voice betrayed her. She wasn't sure anymore. Not about him. Not about what she'd seen on that phone. Not about the hollow ache in his expression now. A woman at a nearby table whispered, "Isn't that the owner?" Another man corrected, "No, the owner never shows up at these events." But then a third voice murmured, "I've seen the board pictures, that's him." The murmurs spread like wildfire. Claire's breath hitched. She stared at Henry, searching his face for denial, for confirmation, for anything. He didn't answer the murmurs. He simply stood there, shoulders wet, head bowed slightly as if bracing for another blow. Mr. Dalton cleared his throat. "Claire, Henry isn't just an employee. Henry raised a hand gently to stop him. "Not here." For the first time, Claire noticed the way Dalton deferred to him, the way others stepped aside as Henry moved, the way silence followed him like gravity. It didn't make sense. Not yet. Henry walked toward the exit, each step leaving a small trail of water behind him. Just before reaching the door, he paused. Without turning, he said softly, "If you believed the worst of me that easily, then we really do need to talk." The door closed behind him, leaving Claire frozen in the center of the ballroom, the stares of hundreds pressing against her spine. Cold air rushed into Claire's lungs as she stepped outside the hotel. The night on Park Avenue was sharp and restless, filled with taxi horns and drifting conversations from late pedestrians. She spotted Henry halfway down the sidewalk, his wetsuit darkening under the streetlights. He didn't hurry. He didn't try to escape her. He simply walked like a man carrying something too heavy for anger. "Henry!" she called out, her voice cracking. He stopped but didn't turn immediately. When he finally faced her, droplets slid from his hair onto the collar of his jacket. His eyes met hers, tired, guarded, but not cruel. "You saw a message," he said quietly, "and you assumed betrayal." Claire swallowed hard. "It wasn't just any message. It sounded like you were mocking my family, that we weren't good enough for you, that all we had to offer was labor." Henry inhaled slowly, the breath visible in the cold air. "Claire, that wasn't a conversation with a friend, it was with my board. They want to shut down the plant. Your parents' plant. I was fighting it." Her chest tightened. She blinked. "That's not what I read." "You read one line, the worst one." Henry's voice wavered, not with anger, but with something like regret. "I said the plant was running on outdated systems and that it would cost us more to fix than to replace manpower. Claire, I was repeating their words, trying to argue against them." She stepped closer, heart thudding. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you say you owned it?" Henry finished softly. Silence pressed between them. Claire felt the ground shift beneath her. "You hid that," she whispered. "Yes." He didn't flinch. "Because the moment people know who I am, they stop seeing me. They see the money, the decisions, the mistakes my father made. I wanted at least one part of my life that wasn't touched by the company." His voice faltered on that last word. Claire had never heard him sound small before. "But my family works there," she said gently. "And that terrified me," Henry replied, finally looking away. "I didn't want you to think I chose you out of guilt or obligation, or to clean up another Harrington mess." A taxi splashed through a puddle nearby, jolting her back into the moment. Claire wrapped her arms around herself, the night colder now. "So why didn't you defend yourself back there?" she asked. Henry let out a fragile breath. "Because the message, the plant, the board, everything you thought I was doing, I've been afraid it would all come crashing down. Tonight, you threw water on me." His eyes flicked back to hers, but it felt like the least painful hit. Before Claire could respond, her phone buzzed sharply inside her purse. She glanced at the screen and felt the blood drain from her face. It was her father, and he never called during night shifts. Claire's fingers trembled as she slid her phone from her purse. The screen shook slightly in her hand, the caller ID glowing against the cold New York night. Her father never called during work hours, much menos during a night shift. Something was wrong. She answered with a breathless, "Dad?" Static crackled for a moment, followed by her father's strained voice. "Claire, sweetheart, is Henry with you?" Her eyes snapped toward Henry, who watched her with quiet concern. "Yes. Why? What happened?" A heavy exhale came through the line. They're shutting down the plant. Tonight. Not next month like they'd said. Tonight. People are being told to clear out their lockers. Some are crying, some are yelling. Nobody understands what's happening. Claire's heart stopped. But that makes no sense. Why would they? "Someone leaked a memo," her father continued. "A memo saying the company is replacing half the workforce. It has Henry's name signed at the bottom." Claire's throat went dry. She turned sharply toward Henry. "Is this real?" Henry's face paled with a kind of devastation she had never seen on him. "A memo? With my signature? Claire, I never signed anything like—" He stopped himself, pressing his hand against his forehead. "It's the board. They've been pushing this for months. They must have forged approval to move faster." Her father's voice crumpled. "Sweetheart, your mother is terrified. We all are. They say security will escort everyone out within the hour." Claire felt her breath slip away. She looked at Henry, really looked at him, seeing the horror in his expression. He wasn't acting. He was shattered. "Dad, I'm coming," she said quickly. "Hold on, don't leave the building. I'm on my way." She hung up before he could answer. For a moment she stood still, the noise of the city fading into a numb hum. The humiliation in the ballroom, the water, the shouting, it all seemed small now, tiny, petty. Henry stepped closer. "Claire, let me come with you." She shook her head sharply. "No, they're scared enough. If they see you, I'm the one who can stop this," he said firmly. "If the board forged my signature, I can shut the entire operation down before it's too late." Claire hesitated, torn between fury and fear. Her family was inside that building. Her mother, her father, their friends, all of them desperate, confused, betrayed. "Then come," she whispered. Henry nodded once, determined. A cab screeched to a stop at the curb, splashing icy water onto the sidewalk. They slipped inside, the door slamming shut behind them. As the cab sped toward the plant on the edge of Queens, Claire stared out the window, pulse racing, wondering which truth would hit harder, the one she already knew, or the one Henry was about to uncover. The industrial district felt colder than usual when Claire and Henry stepped out of the cab. The plant's floodlights cast long, frightened shadows across the parking lot, where workers gathered in clusters, some crying, some furious, all confused. Claire spotted her parents near the entrance, her mother clutching a small box of personal items. "Mom, Dad?" Claire hurried over. Her father pulled her into a brief, tight hug before glancing at Henry with clear resentment. "They said you signed it. The memo everyone saw." Henry stepped forward carefully. "Mr. Dawson, I didn't approve any shutdown. Someone forged my signature." Claire's mother's voice trembled. "Then why does it look like you did?" Henry took the crumpled paper from her father's hand. One glance was enough. Fonts mismatched, spacing wrong, the signature too precise. "This isn't mine," he said. "We're being escorted out in 10 minutes, her father added, shoulders sinking. No answers. No explanations. Claire looked at the panic around them. Neighbors, lifelong workers, people who had watched her grow up. The fear in their eyes made her chest tighten. "We're going inside," Claire said. Security hesitated at first, but Henry's presence, his authority, shifted the air. People whispered as they entered the hallway, passing workers pleading for clarity. At the end of the corridor, through the glass of the conference room, Claire saw board members gathered around a glowing laptop. One of them looked up, saw Henry drenched and furious, and instantly turned pale. Something told Claire the forged memo was only the beginning. Inside the conference room, the board's unease was almost tangible. Documents lay scattered, the projector displaying the shutdown memo like a wound cut open for everyone to see. Henry stepped forward. "Who authorized this?" His voice was low, controlled, but burning. Mr. Atherton, face strained, managed, "The situation demanded quick action." "Quick," Henry repeated. "You blindsided hundreds of workers. You forged my approval." Caro crossed her arms. "The plant is outdated." "We acted to protect the company." Henry opened a folder with firm hands. "I already have a modernization plan. You ignored it." Silence. Shame flickered across a couple of faces. Claire stood near the wall, watching the man she thought she knew unravel his quiet grief and buried strength in front of the people who had undermined him for years. Then Henry took out his phone. "I'm revoking Memo 14B, effective immediately." "You can't do that," Caro burst out. But Henry was already speaking into the phone. "Override now, block board access." The projector shut off with a click. Shock rippled across the room. Before anyone could respond, a security guard rushed in. "Sir, the East Wing alarm just triggered. Someone's in the server room trying to access the logs." Claire felt her stomach drop. Whoever had forged Henry's signature was trying to erase the evidence, and they weren't finished. Red lights pulsed along the hallway as Henry and Claire sprinted toward the East Wing. The air grew hotter near the server room, filled with the hum of machines and the sharp scent of overheated cables. The door was open. Inside, Mr. Atherton crouched by the main console, typing feverishly, a portable drive plugged into the system. Henry's voice cut through the noise. "Step away." Atherton froze, then turned slowly. Sweat glistened on his forehead. "You don't understand, Henry. The plant is a financial disaster. This was necessary." "Necessary?" Henry stepped closer. "Lying? Forging? Destroying evidence?" Atherton's eyes darted toward the drive. "If I finish this, nobody will trace it back." Without thinking, Claire reached for the fire alarm and yanked it. A blaring siren filled the room, vibrating the walls. Atherton jolted, losing his grip on the drive. It clattered onto the floor. Henry rushed forward, detached the drive with one swift kick, and locked the console with his personal override. Security arrived within seconds. Atherton struggled, shouting excuses as they pulled him away. Henry stood still, breathing hard, staring at the locked console, the truth finally safe. Outside, workers gathered anxiously as he stepped into the hallway. Claire's parents looked at him with fragile hope. Henry lifted his voice. "The plant stays open. No one is losing their job." The hallway erupted in relieved voices, some cheering, some crying. Claire moved closer to Henry, her voice quiet but firm. "You should have told me the truth." His eyes softened. "I didn't want to lose you." She took his hand. "Then start by trusting me." For the first time that night, the weight on Henry's shoulders seemed to lift. Spring sunlight spilled through the tall windows of the renovated plant office months later, warming the framed photographs Henry had hung along the hallway. Old black and white images of the workers who had built the company long before boardrooms and shareholder meetings tried to erase them. In the center was a new picture, Claire's parents standing proudly beside the updated machinery, their faces lit with relief and something close to joy. Claire paused in front of it, running her fingertips gently along the edge of the frame. The plant had survived. Jobs had stayed. And Henry kept his promise. Every decision made openly, every change explained, every voice in the building finally heard. It was no longer just his company. It was theirs. She found Henry in the small break room he had insisted on rebuilding, sitting at a round table with 2 steaming cups of coffee. He looked different now, lighter, as if letting the truth out had loosened something deep inside him. When she walked in, he didn't speak. He just reached for her hand, the gesture quiet, but full of the gratitude he never quite found the words for. "What now?" she asked softly. He glanced at the plant floor below, where workers moved with new confidence and a sense of belonging. "Now we try again," he said, with honesty this time. Claire leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. Outside, the faint hum of machines echoed through the air, steady, alive, familiar. She thought about the night at the gala, the cold water, the fear, the shock. All of it had brought them here, to this moment where forgiveness felt less like a choice and more like a place they had arrived together. In the office Henry used to avoid, a small object sat on his desk. The metal bucket Claire had once clenched with shaking hands. Cleaned, polished, and now holding a bright green plant. A reminder of everything nearly lost and everything rebuilt. Sometimes redemption didn't come in grand gestures, but in the quiet rebuilding of trust, in the courage to say the truth out loud, and in the shared belief that people could grow back stronger after being broken. And for Claire and Henry, that was the beginning of a new chapter, one rooted in dignity, kindness, and the second chances that come when two people finally meet each other with open hearts. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this heart-touching story. Tell us in the comments which moment touched you the most. Subscribe and turn on the bell to receive more stories that inspire and transform. Leave a like if you believe in the invisible strength of kindness, dignity, and family. And thank you for being part of this community that believes in stories with soul.